Monday, June 8th, 12:13 p.m. What's up, everybody? We are back on the markets with a couple trading examples I wanted to discuss. Again, have not taken any new positions. Didn't really watch much of any of the trading in the past week or week and a half or whenever the last update of this series we did was. Again, too busy trying to deal with Andrew Ross Sorkin. Again, I can't say his name enough. That is as severe of crime, saying that I've stolen your copyright through whatever means necessary, whether it's YouTube or just not acknowledging my work. You are directly in violation of the Constitution and causing me profound property damage. And yeah, you're going to jail like literally immediately. So to all of the people stealing my work, all you guys do is gossip. So make sure, again, Andrew Ross Sorkin is a criminal. And just make sure he knows that he will be receiving charges as soon as possible. He gets to sit on CNBC, and I don't get to live my life. That's not a good thing. But we are back on the markets, discussing trading dynamics, the two types of things. We did have some good. Currently looking at Gemmy, nothing really exciting or special to talk about here. That is just where what we had pulled up was. But overall, I did want to talk about, again, when we're looking for convictions of trades, I have no positions, probably not really looking for one, but again, as long as I'm sitting here talking and looking at the markets, it's always like, okay, if I have any conviction, we're trying to look to do something small, but might not trade at all, again, just doing whatever comes to mind on any given day. And so, but we did have some what I would consider substantial selling pressure, specifically on NASDAQ and the associated QQQ looking funds. Because when we were saying conviction, like if we are going to trade something, what are the current market dynamics? What are the big major geopolitical events or conditions? And because the highest convictions of trade we have, if we have a risk tolerance, which we don't because of the crime I just mentioned, we would just be taking much lower conviction things, just looking to say, hey, we can risk $20 here. Let's take a trade. Maybe we get lucky. Because again, you have to be in a position before the big move happens. Whether that move is intraday, whether that move is overnight, the ability to enter or exit a position after some sort of news event, it's already too late. And so you want to be in the right position at the right time, and you have to have some risk tolerance to do so. We do not have that, so we are very much looking for the highest conviction trades, which emerge from, I would say, medium-term market dynamics. A given 3-day trend in relation to a month trend. A given 3-month trend in relation to an 18-month trend. A 6 to 9 month nice month trend in relation to a 3-year trend. Some sort of discrepancy in those types of time frames. Specifically, in my own experience, the highest conviction things are the 3-day specifically into to some sort of relief or reversal of a 3-day move. And so wanted to cover those today. Again, that's on the Datadog and Snow that I wanted to talk about. We'll do the QQI, what I was thinking over here. For overall market conditions, again, any sort of big retracement is a time that I'm looking to go long. This is something we were buying, again, in proportion to our free cash and to what we were looking to do. We were buying, and so that was a good decision. We had this relief rally. We sold for capital appreciation right into 53, right at this lower 53, like 16, I believe. But not really looking to get out of these funds. Just seemed like a strong move. That move continued up, and then we get a big retracement down. So overall, I'm again, we've covered why I think the S&P or, again, these indices capture momentum, which when people say, or you feel the sentiment of the stock market going up, you turn on CNBC and Sarah Eisen and Carl Cantony and everyone feels excited. It's because there's some sort, again, of appreciation, but what was I going to say? I was going to say something else. Again, I don't know why this is happening today. Again, at the end of these math proofs, it's literally just like stuff is just and it's not like you forget it. You just move on to something else so freaking quick. But if you're watching news channels and you're watching financial broadcasting and people feel excited, they're talking about the overall, okay, it's kind of just this general, it is genuine, but general sentiment of things are going up. And so I do think the indice funds capture the momentum. Again, why we have this general population increase, The point being, what I want to focus on is when you feel excitement from like news broadcasters, they're just in this environment where they can say, "Hey, the stock market's going up," kind of thing. And then we have, and so again, I kind of lost where I was going with that. But point being is overall market conditions. This candle into here, you just kind of wait for something to buy into. And so this was a strong enough move on a Friday. Again, on the Friday, that's when we like to take a lot of short positions. People just, mechanically closing out trades for not wanting to have exposure over the weekend. Seems to be you get a good amount of selling pressure. Again, if I had to put numbers on it, like 65% of the time, it's just like liking to take some short positions on a Friday. Again, all of these little any stimulus or reason, just we're looking for total discrepancy. Why is this over here versus over here? If it makes any sort of conviction, we take a position. And so with a sell-off that was into Friday, this would have been a good buying into the long perspective. Again, overall in these even intermediate to longer terms, I am in the same generic bull case as everybody else. Stock market's going to go up. Do we think it's going to go up to 8,000 this year or 8,200 or 7,800? I don't know. Population's going to increase. We have so much profound inefficiency. It's going to go up in the medium term, meaning after you buy any position in terms of an index fund position, 18 months from now, if you buy like the worst timing, you'll go underwater for like 18 months and you'll be back into profit. And I think that dynamic's going to continue indefinitely, substantially past our lifetimes. And so, meaning any sort of big sell-off looking to buy into indexes or indexed income funds. Stock-specific things are always stock-specific, but overall market selling pressure into Friday specifically, the given day, and then just the overall momentum of rapid movement, velocity, rapid movement, downward. Again, this short-term relief, right? This isn't something, again, this could easily go back down to 48. It could go up to 60. No real conviction on, again, anything besides overall long term, but to execute a trade, which we didn't do, again, just not watching the markets, and you come here and you see this big old red candle. This would be a position if I were to trade this. If I were sitting around here on Friday looking to take a trade, this would be a long position. Again, this is an income fund. To trade the actual capital appreciation into the relief of Monday today. And so this would have been a good long position, and again, on something where if you miss badly, again, all of our position sizing is what moderates not getting into too big. But if you have missed the overall move, again, this has enough movement of, again, where you take 1,000 shares, you're making or losing $1,000 of appreciation or depreciation every dollar of this income fund. And so that's enough volatility, that's enough movement where it's like you can trade this to me as a day trader. Like this is just something that moves enough to trade. And then if you miss, again, I'm bullish in the medium to long term. All of my trades are, short, extremely short term. And so, but if you miss an extremely short term trade on something that you're fine holding longer term, and again, not in this pat yourself on the back, I'm going to invest in a company and it's okay to go underwater. It's like, no, I'm making a decision. I want to make money today, but there's a risk to that. And so you kind of like back weight your risk with another manageable position. I go long on something, the capital depreciation, but I like the overall income fund. You just kind of add to it or whatever. Again, just refreshing a lot of these different dynamics. I know we repeat a lot of things, but it always feels new in the terms of finance because the actual data and stuff is always changing. And so this would have been a good trade. This is a trade I would have taken to a small level, maybe 200 shares. Again, I don't have that much free cash. But again, we can go in and out of treasury bonds. And I put another 30,000 into the treasuries. So again, that's money I would easily take out and, trade, and that's extremely liquid. We can do that within seconds. And so, any sort of selling off pressure, is something I would definitely looking to go long into the income fund specifically, but the motivation in the trade perspective to be the capital appreciation, just back weighting any sort of risk. The overall levels here, again, I feel like there will be some choppiness. Again, the overall sentiment. When I keep saying, throughout this trading log, we've been saying kind of bearish, just because of this extended gains going into the fourth year. But even at that, again, that's just kind of I still think that, but again, like what time frame? I couldn't even like articulate a meaningful time frame. And so again, just to me, that's out there. It's one of those things. It's like, yeah, you go swimming in the ocean. There's sharks out there, but it's just kind of we're not going to worry about that too much. But it's not that we're not worrying about it. You can't. There's not data. There's no way to make an action on that uncertainty or that slight conviction. Right? I think it's going to go down today, tomorrow, a week, right now. What sector? What stock? And so, definitely saw some selling pressure, or at least relief in the memory stocks. In the same type of, and that was the QQI's movement. But really still no meaningful downward movement here. Still looks like consolidation. Again, it could be another one channel starting another channel here, between 13, 1250 and 18. Bullish on these kind of for the medium term, meaning 12 months-ish. But again, all of my initiations of positions are on more short-term, immediate, extreme movements where the actual trade is the relief of 3 days going into a fourth day. And then if it happens to make sense for a longer-term trend, holding that position. But all of the entries and exits for me are much, much more shorter term. Again, that overall 3-day movement into a relief on the fourth day seems to hold up. We'll get to that here in a second. But just checking back in on memory, again, no positions on any of these. Kind of bullish on these for an executable trade in the next 12 months, but it would have to be some sort of big retracement. But then you get the sentiment, the minute it has a big retracement, okay, is now at the top end. And so it's like we're always balancing this dynamic where we're just looking for the most discrepancy to have the highest conviction, and then we're taking a position size that's appropriate for our goals and our portfolio size. And so, overall, again, downward pressure on Friday. Then I don't really have any positions on anything. The other thing I wanted to cover was this 3-day blow-off, which we've talked and documented a bunch. Again, we've had losing trades both on Datadog and on Snowflake. And so I don't really, I wouldn't, admittedly, I don't know if someone were to say I'm an analyst on Datadog and I'm an analyst on Snowflake, what exactly the business overlap and whatever is as a trader, the overall sentiment of a given day, the overall dynamics of a liquid market, and just the overall sentiment of a sector are like the three most dominant things. And so this thing's moving, and then that overall liquidity and overall human behavior, typically we would trade the 3-day, take a position after 3 days for a blow-off. We do have a good consideration of, do we want to short the day? We have a company, beats earnings, up pre-market. Do we want to short that pre-market into the open selling pressure, which we have taken, and that's a pretty high conviction trade for me. But then the overall medium-term movement, if we're looking to short something over a couple months or longer, we're trying to time these frames where it's like we might not short immediately the open of earnings report, appreciation, pre-market the day after that. That's what, like, taking a short position, that pre-market, like that one day we did on SanDisk, and then closing into that 9:30, either immediately on the open or around that 10 to 10:17 hour our time. We've documented that. Those are the trades I'm talking about. But for example, Datadog versus Snowflake in our recent, again, we've taken losing trades on both of them. We were completely out of Datadog right around 225. So again, these levels where it's like, because we cut our losses short, but it's still just like managing the psychology. Like, how do you feel, seeing it come back down? So Datadog, again, we have this earnings beat. You can't really see it because of my face, but that's this 0.16. And so then we have this period of, again, we shorted Datadog. It didn't have the normal kind of dynamics of either selling off immediately after the earnings or having a 3-day and then kind of a sell-off relief. It just kind of like stair-stepped up. And so we kind of took small exposure here, kind of more of an interesting dynamic than our typical earnings movements. But that's what we were playing here. We lost here. This kind of did look like into a blow-off. And so, but outside of that 3-day, we're moving definitively positive, appreciating after an earnings report, and then a retracement, which we will see in Snowflake here in a second. And that's kind of our consideration. Why does one thing do one and one thing do another? We have a great example, same sector, same kind of hype. Again, I don't know if Datadog is more data and Snowflake is more other type of data. Again, I don't know exactly the business operations, but my point is that's kind of the conversation of it's priced in or it's known or there's no secret something out there. the dynamics of a liquid market, being able to enter, sell something, get cash, hold this, is way more influential to the overall appreciation dynamics than what caused something to move. And so I don't think business differentiation really matters in terms of the trading dynamic. But we have an example, Datadog with this type of trading pattern, and then we go over to Snowflake, and we have this kind of trading pattern. And so obviously, luckily for us, we made pretty much precisely the wrong decisions, all of which I want to emphasize is like, again, you're just playing this risk-reward game all of the time. And so it's just like, again, if we would have done our trade on Snowflake and we were looking at Salesforce, literally it was just like this one or that one. And so this one did appreciate a little bit, but this was kind of more of the overall dollar figures. 180 to 210 was like, again, the kind of the expected move, and we expected it to the downside off of Zscaler. Another, again, software certainly, but the actual business fundamentals, again, I couldn't tell you how much differentiation, but again, emphasizing I don't think that matters in terms of trading dynamics. And so why did Snowflake have a much bigger reaction and Salesforce not have a same type of severe reaction? And then you'll get on CNBC and people that have long positions or have made money, they're absolutely certain they made a great decision. Not everybody, but a lot of the younger people. Again, I'm specifically thinking just it was like a black guy, regular contributor. I can't blank on his name, but he's always up there. But you could tell he was like excited. He had a long position. And to me, it's like nothing wrong, but it's just like I don't think it's validated to say, this differentiation in Snowflake caused this reaction, where I'm much more asserting it's the overall liquid dynamics where everything is forward earnings. And so everything is just like wound, like you take a basketball and you pump it up and it's like, how many pumps can you go till it pops? Which one's going to pop when? It's like that's kind of the reaction. And so certainly nothing wrong with it. Getting excited about making money is obviously going to happen, but just asserting causality to this cause this difference in Snowflake specifically versus Salesforce specifically, I just don't think you can assert causation. And so that's why we're always, we just have a position size we can manage and an overall kind of risk tolerance, and then you just kind of play the game. And so active management is what matters. And even in that, with that explicit goal or management idea, there's just only so much data, and it only means so much. And so you just have a risk tolerance and you manage it the best you can. But point being is between Snowflake and Salesforce, Zscaler turned out to not be a bellwether, and then we didn't really have, again, what made Salesforce do that and Snowflake do this. Couldn't tell you, and I don't think anybody could. And I don't think there's enough data or any, how would you assert causation? To me, it just doesn't exist. Overall, on a personal level, again, this one was one we played the earnings, pre-earnings, so this was just we have this appreciation. Holding this position wasn't even worth it for the 3 days. But now we see this 3-day movement, an earnings beat, strong appreciation for 3 days, and then a sharp retracement. And so this is kind of where it's just like, then we're getting to, again, Snowflake versus Datadog now. Is like, why did Snowflake do this or have this type of trading pattern, and then Datadog have this type of trading pattern, when we're still in software where I don't think differentiation past that matters. And so again, I have nothing. I'm just pointing out again the environment that I think, or the considerations that make sense to me, is like, what is going on? What is our market dynamic? And so couldn't tell you, but again, this is kind of my point that I was getting to, is if same sector, same type of trade, then what is our operative action? To me, it still makes more sense to play this to what Snowflake did, play this, look to initiate a position. If you're going to short a disjointed appreciation like this, earnings beat, gap up, to me, if you watch 100 of these things, you're going to have the best bet. 65% are going to do this 3-day appreciation. And then some, again, I wouldn't even really call this a top, but and then it's just a sharp retracement. And so, again, you're always timing it up with the background market. All of that sentiment of the given market dominates the day, and of given security that day is always the most dominant. So as we've been documenting, it's not clear. There's always, it's not like this is the great time, here's some secret solution, and then you just look at this chart, buy low, sell high, and that's really all you're really trying to do. But those are the dynamics I wanted to highlight today, and just emphasize that between the trading pattern between Snowflake and Salesforce, and then the chart pattern and price action dynamic between Datadog and Snowflake. And so this we lost on both, luckily, but this one we didn't even really play our typical. We wanted to play the earnings, making a trade. But this dynamic, we see a difference between Datadog and Snowflake. But overall, this 3-day appreciation to a 4th day, any sort of relief. And this is not it didn't fill the gap, it didn't sell off hard, but you still got $40 of depreciation pretty quickly. And so it's again, the volatility always matches volatility. If something goes up really high, it has the potential to come down really fast, vice versa. And so, I would say again, that's why we're short bias, right? Why is something going to go from really high to really low? You're going to have some sort of substantial something, I think. Again, when you watch the market dynamics enough, convictions of about 65 to 70%, if you had to put numbers on it, of Datadog versus Snowflake, 70% are going to do this type of thing. And again, at least that's when we have conviction to initiate a trade. Does that dynamic hold? How long does that dynamic hold? 10 years, 1 year? Is it holding now? All up for, hey, I'm Brad, I'm on the market doing the best I can. And so that is what I wanted to cover today. We have SpaceX IPO. Again, not going to play that. Again, I haven't played anything since our last video. Overall, again, slightly bullish for the medium term on these energy or memory stocks. If they were to have a big depreciation without any sort of fundamental disruption, maybe a long position there. But frankly, for trading, nothing. But if there was a big sell-off or if there was continued sell-off into the QI, I would try to trade this, sell some, because again, like I said, I put 30 more thousand of just the free cash that has been sitting there into treasury bonds, because just if I'm not doing anything with it, and then not actively trading, not having to cover anything or whatever. So I just threw that in there to make another $100. Some appreciation's better than nothing. And so any sort of continued sell-off or big depreciation here, I will initiate or take a position. Nothing at these levels. And so just wanted to pop on because, again, my YouTube channel can't be a scholar, can't review books in the most novel analysis-proven way possible. But that was kind of my workflow. Was just having an overall academic book to read and review, doing the market dynamics, and then obviously doing derivation. Only so much fundamental derivation you can ever do in one given period. It is literally a physical limit. So you do more of these other intellectual projects. So we'll probably be doing a lot more market stuff now that I can't do that. But also language stuff. So we still have that Project Gutenberg that it explicitly says copyright free, but it's just more of this uncertainty environment, which is the biggest thing for me. Right? My music, my cover songs, I still don't think should be anything, because you have the lyrics, which is the only thing that's copyrighted, but the melody, chord progressions is all novel for me on all of them. But I certainly just don't think it will be at a single go. The book series is, if one of those things get hit, I don't see why all of them don't get hit. But for the overall, I'm still considering taking down my cover songs. Obviously, to the greater academic institutions and intelligence apparatus, if any of my property is lost at any point in time, any email, text, anything, I know that stuff's tracked, but I don't have the peace of mind. And so I have to preserve my YouTube at all costs. I don't see that as a problem with the cover songs. Again, just getting more back into legal discussion. But overall, it's just this uncertainty. I can do this. I can't do this. I don't know what I can do. And I'm doing this all in good faith, all in genuine. I'm trying to be a scholar. Yeah, I've proven all of analysis. The only guy ever in history. It's okay. But regardless, that's what's going on. Just a massive disruption to my workflow. Taking down anything that was reading. That was the biggest thing for copyright. Still will probably take down my cover songs because they get no views. And it's just a slight liability. It's just might as well take them all down. I have my whole derivation up there. Because that was the other thing. Again, once you run out of letter structure, that is the proof. And so all of this proving stuff that you've seen in videos, if you're kind of new to me or new to my video content, all of the things you've seen in From Rhythm to Algorithm, all of the things you've seen in Financial Trading Basics, all of the fundamental logic that has already been proven and exhausted over email. And so there's no way to show people that, but it's true. That's how we get speciality is special with an ITY. Because I've already done this analysis process, and literally the reduction of the letters is the entire bulk of the proof. And you're just left with one working definition. And so just giving people, whoever's watching, because I want to do work every day. I have such this capacity, and it's just like, what can I do? So definitely more market commentary. Again, for news flow, I like doing the market overall. Just might not trade, might take a trade, but got our $1,700 dividend. Just took out $600 today just for basic expenses, which is the first thing I've taken out since doing any of this stuff. But I don't have constitutional rights. That remains to be prevalent and overwhelming. Again, I'm seeking asylum. This is disrupting my workflow so profoundly. I just want to work, be able to eat properly, sleep properly, and work. And it's just like so direct. I am being persecuted for scientific discovery, actually. And people just like can't take that seriously. My tea's getting a little cold. So probably going to pop off here in a second, but anything else in the market dynamics? Oh, but for the language stuff, I might just do, again, I'll just do all, write my own sentences, translate my own stuff, do whatever. But the Project Gutenberg, I mean, explicitly says, these things are not copyrighted, so you can use them. Again, because that was another section of just my personal development. Because like there's no purpose for me to go read a book. It's to read a book and do analysis and present that analysis in this video content or at conferences or in publication like any other academic. But obviously the Constitution's not respected, so I can't do so. So that's why all of those videos are deleted. Again, obviously I don't owe anybody anything. You guys are all committing crimes against me in a profound criminal way. So any destruction of that data is destruction of evidence. And obviously I'm not truly worried about that. But again, as a person, I'm trying to showcase my stuff. Hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. It's all of these low-level people I have to interact with on my day-to-day life. Where it's just like they're not going to look at a hard drive. But if I have a YouTube channel up, they can like look at something. Not that anybody does or cares, but it's still out there. It's a legal defense. It's a public track record of me doing stuff and saying I don't have constitutional rights because I don't. And still, any day people want to resolve that or give me a little bit of money, it's still that's just like, what the fuck. But that is what I have for market stuff today. And then I do want to get into more language build out, but like I wanted the books that I've analyzed, but like I was kind of, again, I don't go to a bookstore and pick up a book and there's like novel logic. Like it's like I'm the one producing all of that stuff. There's only so much. I mean, you run out of it. And then you just reiterate the same structure again and again and again. All of which is like you're doing $25 million worth of contractually owed mathematics in a 10-minute period every time you do anything, actually. But nobody cares. And so that's what's going on. I got nothing else for right now, and we will check in later. Monday, June 8th, 3:46 p.m. What's up, everybody? Checking back in. On your screen is CF. So just a little update over here. Again, no positions anywhere, but this is another trade we took to the short side. Stimulation on the fertilizer industry. This stock specifically was just one of the ones in the news. Reacting to the war. And now we're going on month 3 to 4-ish or something to that effect. But our prospectus over here, just each day, regardless of what the stimulus is, dwindling effect. And then some sort of fading to the overall appreciation, anything above 100 being that short-term stimulus on or cause from the war. And so we closed out our position and haven't really talked about it or taken any position since the earnings. Something that we just didn't want to be exposed to, which is kind of funny when we took a trade on Snowflake, but more so just an industry or just something that is not comfortable and, hey, I haven't followed this that long. And additionally, the dividend was coming up, a rather sizable one at 50 cents a share. So for those reasons, we kind of closed out and hadn't taken a position since. But there's been a noticeable, again, price action to momentum change over here. And so I just wanted to check back in. We do see continued fading over here on CF. So just wanted to follow up with that since we've talked about it quite a bit. In the same vein, might as well pop on over to American Eagle. Still kind of floating around, not really in a trend, kind of caught a little support. Again, lower lows, but the lows are less severe than the other lower lows, of this recent, since we closed over here on this earnings result. And so no position, no conviction on anything. Market slightly up. Is this a great rebound from Friday's sell-off? Not too much is catching my ear in terms of the CNBC conversation. I think we did have Liz Ann Saunders just on here talking about something that caught my ear was just, right, as we've documented 6 to 9 months ago, nice, right, we're cutting rates. And so each Fed meeting, we're like, are we going to cut rates? Are we going to cut rates? Now we've had this war, we have inflation picking up or staying up, or at least a policy indication or the market pricing in, hey, now we're looking at 75% chance of a rate hike this year. And so just something to point out, every time, whatever the direction of the rate movement is, people are always talking like there's going to be subsequently more of the same one. And again, it's just to me this overall not understanding of just like the naturally cycling of the market. Can't really put much to it, but it's just another one of these overall comments where it just feels strange, right? You're watching people that manage money and they just say stuff and you're like, I don't know what the right answer, but that definitely doesn't reflect that you understand what you're talking about. And so that's for everybody. It's just always like if we're in a rate cutting environment, it's pricing in one rate cut, and when's the next one going to be? Or now we're pricing in a rate hike. When's the next hike going to be? When 6 months it was all cuts. And so it's just, again, something about the overall, I don't know what much to make of it. Don't have much further point to that, but just it's one of these things where it's just people demonstrate behavior, and not in like a good way or a bad way, just a not mature way in terms of if you're trading stocks and you're like, the first thing I'm going to do is like not look at any stocks and just pick random things. It's like, that's not a good idea. You want to learn to ride your bicycle. The first thing I'm going to do is buy snow skis. It's like, what? Right? It's kind of one of those just like, where is this coming from? And I always see that around rates. Again, there's nothing else to say about it. It just sticks out to me. And so the rest of the conversation, like we briefly referenced this morning, SpaceX IPO on Friday. It's going to move around. Is it going to move around? When and where do you buy it? When and where do you sell it? Again, any stock, any position, any sector, go long or go short, and you're going to be in the profit or not profit for like the immediate time. Again, just emphasizing no opinion on the IPO and the overall trading dynamic. Will trade similar to an expensive IPO, but again, that doesn't like mean anything. If the company is valued at $16 quadrillion, is it going to go up or down? Right? And so, no opinion on that. That's just kind of what we have on our docket for talking points on CNBC. And so, not much. And so I figured, again, hey, we're going to be doing this more. I figured I'll just, bring up something that comes to mind, whether a talking point, a news story, just the same stuff we've been doing in this trading log. So this afternoon, I wanted to talk about specialization in the labor market. Specifically, again, math, science, physics. Again, I kind of separate these things because I'm developing property, but again, my analytical capacity is all day, every day. It doesn't matter if a camera's on, not on, what's going on. And so a news story came up about one of my great colleagues at Harvard, Jin Shi, or Shi Jin. And he just comes up. This is his publication list. And the first thing that just kind of strikes me is because this person is, we'll get back to this in a second. Again, is that copyright? Is looking at someone's publication list? I don't think so. But again, it's just more of this, what material are you able to reference when you're clearly doing educational content? Should be all of it. And like the worst thing that could happen is if you're doing some sort of material where it's like revenue sharing. But point being, not doing another copyright thing, at least right now. There was some like filtering or like lingering thoughts I might bring up. But point being is we have, you want to be the most specialized, one of the biggest names. Again, I've never heard of this guy, but in terms of his quote-unquote pedigree, he's 31 years old. And for reference, I'm 32, going to be 33 in September. And so younger than me. And so he has gotten his PhD in 2006. I still have not received a PhD, which is completely fraudulent when considering, truly, if you just took anybody that knows math and physics and you said, what have I done? Again, demonstrated complete analysis, and then really like the big centralized idea in mathematics is this Langlands program is what they call it. But in reality, it's the objective is to show interconnectedness in disparate fields of mathematics. Wow, we've demonstrated the entire logical structure that exists here on planet Earth, at least in the human culture. And so we have raised that bar quite a bit, and it's true and it's proven. And so I always lose my thoughts of what I'm trying to go for. But this Langlands program of showing connection in disparate areas of mathematics, like we've completed Langlands program, which unifies physics. Like those are kind of like the big things that you would say to a physicist or a mathematician is what demonstrating analysis does. And so the overall, what am I trying to say? What was I saying? Oh my goodness, why can't somebody just give me my constitutional rights? But so like if you take physics, right, we've completed the Langlands program, we've shown connection in the entire logical structure that exists, and in doing so, axiomatized physics completely. And so the only thing that's left to do in what's called theory is this analytical process of reducing linguistics to physics. It is what it is to it is what it is, with specific solutions, which are directly forced by the completion of the previous axiom. And all of this stuff is not within known mathematics or known, but it's a unique chronology, right? If I'm not here tomorrow, the next person has to pick up legitimately exactly where I left off with sensorality. Because again, it's a accumulation of all of the consolidation of information of everybody up until right now watching this video. Hey guys. But completion of the Langlands program unifies physics. But if you ask a physicist what would be the quality of research in which you would satisfy saying we have unified physics, they would specifically say show consistency or completeness. I don't even know if they would use those words between quantum mechanics and general relativity. And the reality is that you just live in a logical structure where you've completely exhausted the entire logical framework in which you can prove anything. Because, right, we're back into mathematics now, where you have things that you can prove, things that are true that you can't prove, and then undecidable. And so, or unknown, or not enough information, or, again, you can't address it. There's no structure to pose a question, and there's no statements, no data, no geometric progression to show affirmation, show proof, show consistency. And so, again, when I say consistency, you should be thinking function. The point being is everything in theoretical physics and mathematics is completely solved up into this axiomatic structure, where it's a well-defined process of what an axiomatic reduction is, which is 100% provably the most involved, comprehensive thing you can do in research. And so he's immediately, there's 0% chance, I've never heard of this guy, 0% chance you're a faculty member in physics and mathematics, and you're not aware of my work. So he's a criminal. He's committing fraud, but again, that's the entire academic structure legitimately. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that profound and illegal activity, and just more on this specialization in the labor market, where we have all of these companies, OpenAI, Sam Altman, super weirdo number one versus Elon Musk versus we have that extended chromosome pack. Elon got that downloadable content, extended chromosomes, extra long telomeres, and so. This Xi Jin Asian. Again, I don't care. I beat all of Asia at math. I can say that. Haha. But so he's going from academia into industry. And then you look at this publication list. Oh, I'll pull it up here in a second. It's not that relevant. The only thing I wanted to point out was a couple quotes he had where he says, artificial intelligence gives him 100x his output, or 100x this. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's see his output. And then I open up his publication list, and let's have a look. This is my favorite stat right here. If you look over to the left, single author papers. He's had his PhD for, again, at this point, 20 years. 20 years. So he's one of those guys that gets the PhDs when you're like 12. And again, I have completed analysis. I have had the physical intuition to articulate complete reduction of the entirety of mathematics and physics since I've been 6. People kind of miss that. But single author publications, 6. So of all of this 20 years of saying, I have contributed enough to academia to be a full professor. So he's been a full professor since, the article says he's a full professor now. And so now he might go on sabbatical to go make $100 million salary at OpenAI, which is, again, where's that money coming from? Oh, yeah, the open market or the private market. I don't think, is OpenAI public? Doesn't matter. Point being is we're back into this trading environment where everything's trading at 50x to everything. And so where's the value? All right, where is this fundamental, right? Memory is memory. Compute is compute. And so fundamentally, memory is configuration. Right, you're just configuring. Literally, if you're programming a computer, you're already directly limited by physics. Right, the fundamental stability of 2 is why you have binary on all of your computer screens. or that's why it's the language of the computer, is this fundamental stability of two. Physically, all things have this internal property of two. That's why binary is on your computer. But memory is memory, processing power is processing power, which people call compute. Again, my workflow is so agentic, I'm just vibing out all of the time. And so, again, we're still in this environment where all scientific results are independent of one person. And so you see this track of, again, being acknowledged extremely young, getting a PhD, and to me, again, what gets you a PhD is it's not even like anything. Truly. And so, obviously never proven anything, still in that environment of, hey, mathematicians, what's mathematics? I have no idea. Isn't it thematics? Because it says it right there? Where's rhythm in physics? Wow. He has an IQ of 200 points. He got a PhD when he was 13. So where's the maturity? Where's prioritization? Where's saying, here's where physics research is at, and here's where it's going? And because he has the same most generic type of CV or cover letter, or again, he's got one of these big contracts at OpenAI, and it's like, I'm a string theorist working on the boundary of unifying general relativity and quantum mechanics, and all of that shit's just like the wrong motivation, right? You can't model force as a particle. You just can't. You can't model light as a particle. You just can't. We can literally go look at the complete solution of physics on my channel. But point being is, it's just you see what people identify in the labor market as special, as different in a direct engineering application to these massive AI companies, large language processing. Again, I am teaching every sentient being that is training a large language model. But again, just trying to highlight how you take like the highest, again, differentiated person, and then they're still bounded in culture. So like the next thing they're going to say in physics is, we're going to unify quantum mechanics and general relativity. And the first thing you would say directly is, it's very empirically evident. Everything acts just like a sphere. You look at a picture of an atom, you look at a picture of a black hole, the shit looks the same. Because all of these physical proportions scale. What you see in math class, and you have similar triangles, congruent triangles, and it preserves the interior angle proportions. It's the same thing. Size is definite, but the overall proportionality is the same. And so it's just like, you don't see any actual difference in terms of novelty, in terms of originality, and certainly not in terms of actually proving anything. Nobody has proven anything on planet Earth besides Brad. And then it's just like, again, what are the hiring managers looking at? It's just this circle jerk of potential. He went to Harvard. He's a full professor. He's been researching for 20 years. 6 single-authored papers. That's nothing. Go look at my YouTube channel. Where's my guests? Who's jumping in? Did I have Neil deGrasse Tyson pop in for some derivation? No, I didn't. And so, and again, it's just this overall, there's only so much to discover. And truly, like, fundamentally, logically, right now, I've not heard anybody say memory is configuration, and that's legitimately what it is. And then you have maximum efficiency limited by the sphere packing density theorem. And so, and that's the proportions you see in what is dark energy and what is dark matter. It's about 67% to 73%, to 23 or whatever the remainder is. And it's just like, that's the exact proportions of the sphere packing density, because it's the same shit. Right? And maximum efficiency in geometry is just how densely you can pack something. And everything acts like a sphere, because spherical is special, directly, literally. And so it's just like, you see what people think is different in the labor market. And again, he got the big accolades. He was one of the people that got acknowledged really young, gets his PhD. And I'm still scratching my head. Again, I went to a high school, and I directly told people I'm not learning anything with, like, hey, let me skip grades. And it was like, you're not allowed. I'm just like, how do any of these people do anything at any point in time? And so it's like, I've lived a life where it's like the empirical resistance to your existence is so profound. It's like, that's like the difference. Unfortunately, that's kind of like the indication. Going to Harvard and saying, I'm going to unify string theory and general relativity. It's like what every supposed to be smart person says. And so, again, I can't emphasize to all of these major companies your legal liability of hiring these people from academia, these licensures, this ability to build businesses, why my constitutional rights are violated, directly creates liability in which you cannot finance. And I will show no leniency to that, considering I live at my parents' house and nobody respects me and I'm just a big fucking joke. Nope. I own the training algorithm for every bit of large language models, every bit of artificial intelligence. This uniqueness between words is 100% my articulation, my property. And so all of this value created from SpaceX and OpenAI and any other thing is just fraud. The amount of crime and legal liability and financial liability and criminal violations you guys have committed are so profound. All of these companies are mine. You are living in Bradlandia. And to my estate, do not disrupt the flow of society, but all of these companies are mine. Is there a free market? My guess is every single person, it's going to be a yes. Well, you stole from me, you lied about everything, you broke every law, and you got to pay me what you owe me. And again, I think two complete axiomatized derivations. Again, we're almost done with sensorality. Have to edit that after this video. But again, my production, like, it can't slow down. And so it's just like, it's truly, and then back to like, even like identifying, again, what is a prodigy? What is a savant? What makes somebody get identified as a really good math person, really young, and they've never proven anything, and they're in a part of a society where analysis is not established? Is it turtles all the way down? Nope. No. We have this fundamental limit of irreducibility physically. And so it's like, that's a true, like, how do you get acknowledged? When I was literally in school, like, I'm not learning anything. Let me fucking leave. And the answer is obviously not. Writing letters to, like, dioceses. I mean, like, real steps. Both with my parents, myself personally. And it's just like, I am being profoundly T-word. And there's, like, not an adult that can, like, hear that and accept that. To this minute of this day. Doesn't change the law. And again, the law overall as is pretty much correct. It's just the quality of people not enforcing it, participating in the labor market, participating in any sort of aspect of society is just moral failures. Behavior is bounded, expected behavior is bounded by your society, by your culture, and nobody knows anything besides play games, compete over nothing, and then kind of just throw your hands and say, hey, surprisingly, it is what it is. We're all just living our own lives. It's a competition out there. It's like, okay, you guys all committed crimes. Give me your whole company. 0% joking. The legal liability that is owed to me directly, personally, right now, all of these companies are at 0. But I'm glad you hired Shinji Zhu Zhong Ping Pong. Okay, that was for historical purposes. Again, I beat Asia in math. But I just wanted to point that out because the dude's literally younger than me. Again, he's had a PhD for 20 years. And it's just like, and then it's like, oh, he's going to keep his full sabbatical, keep his full professorship at Harvard. And what is he teaching? Fraud. What is he doing? Fraud. What is he a part of? A racket. Right? What is he doing every time he thinks? Conspiracy. Awesome stuff, guys. And so, at any point in time, somebody would like to pay me some money. I continue to ask for a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. And so, the market has closed. It is now 4:07. Nothing else really catching my eye on anything to talk about. And so that's your big specialty in the labor market is we're going to just general relativity and quantum mechanics, and we don't even know the structure of the problems we're trying to address. So that is what I have for today, and I will check in later.